Hi, everybody, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 16. Yes, it is Episode 16. And today I'm joined by, I know, Gary's here. And today we're going to be talking about the potential nightmare situation that a venue could face if it was unable to put the number of staff, licensed or otherwise, into place in order for it to be able to open safely according to its licensing conditions. Do you think that's I think that's a worthy of a chat, Gary?
Oh, definitely, and I think it's a point which needs to be put up, isn't it? I mean, we all know that like stadiums, venues, especially stadiums, sometimes they're half short staffed. But let's look at your local pub and let's look at the your small nightclub. What's the situation there?
I think what you've just said there, Gary, what a lot of people do not realize, certainly not the public, is that the biggest licensed venue in most cities will be a football stadium. Yeah, maybe the rugby stadium, depending on where you are. But anyway, I thought we'd look at this from the perspective of the customer journey. So I'm a customer. Let's say I'm going to go out on the town today. So I start off previous night. I want to go to the pub. And I get there and I can't get in because there was supposed to be a door supervisor or guest safety officer, whichever one you want to call it, on duty from 9 p.m. and he's not there or she's not there. So they can't open. I would do, if you, in your role as a guest safety officer, how do you reckon customers would react?
Well, they're not going to be happy, are they? You rock it up to your favourite event or your favourite venue or things you're going for a drink, and you can't open because the licensing conditions state there needs to be a guest safety officer on that time from that time, and they need to be there, and they're not, so they can't open because it's part of their license conditions. They're not going to be happy, are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, but people will say, "Oh, don't be silly." You know, the licensee, he can act as a door supervisor or as guest safety officer, can't he? Or
Not at all.
she?
No, of
Sorry?
course not. Because part of the license conditions, they're required to have an SIA licensed door supervisor there. That's part of their license conditions, isn't it? So they have to be there.
Well, what happens if I've got somebody badged up, but you know they're really bartenders who don't really do anything, and your guest safety officer is the one who's basically responsible on the door?
That's a good point, Ian. I've been down this path many times in clubs and events over the years where they've, to counter or to counteract the extra staff, they've employed bar managers with SIA licenses. And one particular borough in London where this went on, they came in and they went, well, so you're dual rolling then. Are you the bar manager or are you a door supervisor? What are you? And the bar manager had to say, well, I'm the bar manager, but I've got an SIA license. And the question went back from the licensing officer, what are you, the bar manager or are you a security officer? Make your mind up because you can't be both. Because if you're a security officer, you need to be out here working with the guys. Or if you're the bar manager, go and run the bar. So what are you? And it went back to, well, I'm the bar manager. He goes, well, at this present moment, your SIA doesn't count because you're
Yeah.
not working. You're a bar manager. So that's come from a high official from a London borough at that point.
Yeah, and I can see that. So, and so from that, and again, I suppose being pedantic, if something happened in that pub, you know, in that venue during that time, would the insurance be invalidated? Because if you drive with a bold tire, even though you might not know it's bold, yeah, at that particular moment in time, the fact that you didn't do sufficient due diligence to make sure that your car was roadworthy, or I suppose your venue was roadworthy, your insurance is invalidated, isn't it?
Well, I can't say yes or no there. I'm not insurance people, but what I have been told in the past from insurance companies, that if you haven't got people there, it falls back on the operator or the security operator, and then they won't be insured because they haven't supplied the right amount of staff for the venue. And if someone gets injured or hurt, again, it falls back on the supplier, the security supplier. So I can't speak for the venue insurance, but the security operators insurance for certain companies, I can't go for all of them, but ones I've worked with in the past, they've basically said, no, your insurance is invalid.
All right. Okay. So me and all my mates who've come out that night for a drink, yeah, at this pub, the pub can't open from 9 o'clock onwards. Oh, but or if it does, it's now doing so in the knowledge, or in the knowledge and with the full responsibility that should anything happen during that time, that they will have to bear the consequences. Is that right?
Looking at that point, if their license requires them to be opened with a number of security staff and they haven't gotten there, they're going to be in breach, aren't they? They're in breach of their license conditions straight away.
Yeah.
So your local council, your local licensing, it's heavily fines. They can look at doing the reviews on the bar. And again, are they insured at that point? Will their insurance cover them at that point? No, these are all questions which need to be asked.
Because there's several cases that have been undertaken on this, but so let's just take it a step further. So I get up the next day and I'm going to go and watch the Premier League winners, Leicester City. I'm just mentioning it just because I happen to live there and they are a great team, but I get there with my ticket, with the other 30-odd thousand fans that are there. And it turns out that Leicester City haven't got the designated number of safety personnel on, guest safety officers, door supervisors, event stewards, thing. They're too short. So 30,000 people, do these 30,000 people get turned away? Because technically, it's not safe for the city to open, is it?
If we put it down to what their conditions are, no. Because as we said before, if they haven't got the right amount of staff and something goes wrong, who's liable? Who's liable for that? I mean, certain stadiums, they've got their own in-house people. Are they going to be liable? Are the security operators going to be liable? If it does go wrong, and who's going to have that information?
The other question here as well, of course, is that if I've done that, if I've come there and I do get let in, which is great, because I could understand why the police wouldn't be happy if I turned around and said, if I was a stadium manager and said, sorry everyone, all you 30,000 people, you're all going to have to go home because two guest safety officers haven't turned up. We're therefore in breach of our licensing and opening conditions, and it isn't safe for us to open. You're all going to have to go home. Pick your refunds up on the way out, or phone in. How would that go from a crowd safety and crowd management point of view, do you think, Gary?
Well, you could go anywhere, isn't it? You've got 30,000 people not very happy. That's a lot of people.
Do you think some of them might be drunk, or would have been drinking prior to the match?
More than likely, Ian. I wouldn't like to say yes, and I wouldn't like to say no, but we do know that it does go on. So yes, you've got 30,000 people, quite a few of them drunk, and
some of them drugged.
Some of them drugged as well. And, we all know what football fans can be like over previous history.
So technically, I suppose, taking it from the pub view, that if they're in breach of their license, they would also be legally responsible rather than the insurance companies for anything that actually happened as a result of them not being properly staffed to meet the licensing requirements for the safety requirements. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would think so. But before we go back and just have a chat there, I just want to say, so the city one, something we normally do, or not, although not recently, but we decided to go to the nightclub afterwards. Not the days when you used to patrol the earth, when Gary roamed the earth, the Garysaurus, thinking his dicky bow. But there you are. And all of a sudden, you get there to the nightclub and I say, Gary, can I come in? And unusually, you don't say, what is it? Your name's not Dan, you're not coming in, Foxy. Yeah. You say, no, Ian, you can't come in because Paul, hasn't turned up. We were supposed to have a 15-man crew on. We've only got 14. I told you last night at the pub, we can't use the manager. So we're going to have to close. And this is a 1,500 capacity nightclub. How's that going to rock with the crowd, do you think, Gary? You've worked these kind of situations, haven't you?
I've been in many situations, and crowds can turn very quickly and be aggressive. They can also attempt to try and get in places. I mean, I've been there where we've had people trying to attempt to get in, a few hundred people trying to storm doors and things, and it can turn out like that, Ian. Yes.
But have you ever had to actually prevent customers coming in on the grounds that it's not safe for you to be open?
Yes.
You have done. So can you talk
but we have done, but not in the idea we're working on today where we're short staffed. So that event, which that happened where it did become unsafe, was due to a number of violent altercations turning off at a large event. So we had to shut the event down, we had to shut the doors down, and we still had people trying to get in. So, but going back to what our question is, have I had it done where we've been short staffed? No, we haven't.
So what would be the normal situation that happens in the, would you go to the venue operator and say, Mr. Miggins, yeah?
Well, I'll tell you what normally happens in these situations, and most companies do this. You've got your subcontractor providers. Most reputable companies have got good subcontract providers. They might have half a dozen plus. So you send your message out. You phone up your contacts and say, listen, we need someone here ASAP. No, right now. What then tends to happen is, what happens nowadays on certain things, they've got WhatsApp groups and bits and pieces, don't they? And it goes down, and then suddenly you might have John Bloggs, his friend with Fred Bloggs, who's read with Jim Smith, and next you know, flipping Dave Pearson is sending a message out to all his mates, and Dave's thinking to himself, "Oh, I can make a bit of money here." So Dave goes, "Oh, we're all on £12 an hour, but I might get someone to do it for £10 an hour because they're so desperate for somewhere." This is what starts to happen. So you're trying to get someone in as quick as possible.
Yeah, but let's leave that side aside because I do definitely want to come back to that, and I agree with you. I mean, I know one case that always makes me laugh is a store, a provider, had one of his clients phone him up. Exactly that. We need somebody. We need them urgently. We need them right now. Can you send them over? So that he got this guy on his books. He just he just passed all his vetting, etc. He got a license. So they sent him over. Now it was a rough pub, yeah. And he said, "Get over there, get the job done." He hadn't had a chance to see him personally. Yeah, the interview had obviously been conducted, and all the vetting had been conducted elsewhere. But this is the first time. So he said, "Can you go? Yeah, get over there." He said, "Get dressed there." An hour later, he gets a call. Yeah. And I'm not saying, but the owner of the venue turned round and said, "Are you having a laugh?" Yeah, because it's a rough pub, and you know, and he says, "What do you mean?" He says, "The guy that you sent me is 4'1". Yeah, 4'1". This is a nasty pub. He said, "Yeah, you know what I want, and this isn't it." Now you can say, "Oh, that's discrimination, etc., etc.," and it is. You know, funnily enough, the guy apparently did a good job, but that whole moment of just getting somebody there was more important than having to close the entire venue and put all of those people out of work that wouldn't get paid. Does you know, have you ever seen things like that, Gary, in your, you know, during your time on Earth?
Yes. Yes, many times. I mean, we've had it. We've had subcontractor in without us knowing, and we found out later. And the trouble is it's all down to smaller venues, and clubs can't do it. When you work in events, you've got more space. You've got control rooms. When these people turn up, you get a chance to re-vet them. But for the smaller venues, a lot of the time is they haven't got a chance to re-vet them and check them out. And if it's just, as I say, it's a 1-2 man door or a 3 man door, who's going to do the checking? Are the guys, okay, we just got flipping Jim Smith turned up. All right, Jim, you got your badge, blah, blah, blah. And the guys on the ground expect the work to be already done and checked. But the fact is, you know, smaller venues, they probably haven't got the chance to do it at that time. They've got to keep that place open. You know, at the end of the day, they've got to earn money. The bar staff's got to earn money. The venue's got to earn money, and also the security's got to earn money. And they've got to keep with their licensing terms and conditions.
So taking it from there, you know, and we can say that, right, you know, we have to close. We would have to close all of these venues.
Yeah.
Technically. And thousands of people could be out on the street, couldn't they? Because I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe you know better than me, but I have heard that there is a shortfall of around 20% of required of the people, 20% of those that would actually be required to have a license, a DS license, to be licensed guest safety officers, thing at most doors. I mean, I can remember an article written by someone I think we've had on this show, you know, where he was, you know, where they were essentially saying that clubs and nightclubs and pubs were being forced to open, you know, in flagrant breach of their licensing conditions, or they would have to close for business. Have you heard that kind of number anywhere?
I've heard that case. I've got no. I mean, from my experience or from my relative recent experiences over the last few years, I haven't seen it being done, but I have heard it. So it's a big. At the end of the day, we're a big country, and you know there is going to be smaller venues which are struggling. You know, obviously we might not be able to pay for door supervisors and bits and pieces. So, you know, they've got to make a living, haven't they? So there probably is.
I think you know, in that sense, where we're talking about smaller venues in particular, what are they going to do? You know, the regulations, the licensing conditions are the licensing conditions, and if you breach them, you're in risk. You know, and when you do that, and I've read, you know, as you know, I've run a company, security company, and I know exactly what that's like. When you're there, you're trying to fill that space. But yeah, what I want to do now, Gary, so we could, you know, I could see how the police, the local authorities, the line thing, whilst we all want to do things legally, in that sense, they want us to do things legally. The fact is they know that there are going to be times when no matter how much we would wish it to be so, it won't be so. And now I want to go back to the other side, from the operator, the company point of view. So, you and I have both had, you obviously a great deal more experience than I on this particular issue with your consultancy and all the other bits and pieces. But would you ever send out a contract that says, please use WhatsApp to phone up and get me some people?
No.
Would that ever be, what kind of measures would you put in to a contract to try and prevent it?
Well, previous measures I've put out in the past, i.e., when we've had subcontractors, we've asked them where they get their staff from. Obviously, let's go back to the beginning. So obviously, we're going to vet all our subcontractors, check them all out, whether they've got insurance, they've put in the thing. A normal state is we send out a subcontractors questionnaire. That questionnaire asks a number of questions about our subcontractor. Once they're happy, we're happy, and they've gone through the questions and they've proved they can prove their insurance, if they're ACS registered, they've got the right qualifications in place, they vet their staff up to the correct standards. We are happy with that. From there, we'd send out a contract. Part of that contract would state that you cannot subcontract on our contract. If you are, you're liable to be fined. And we used to fine companies. I think at the time it was something like £50 per person, the fines. And we would fine people if we found this out. And as we to go down the line, they couldn't go onto people like WhatsApp. It had to be their staff. So, and that's why we attempted to eliminate that. On a large events and bits and pieces, and when we have had that done, we've had people rock up with the old, I'm here through Jim Smith on WhatsApp. And we're like, who's Jim Smith? He's not recognised. We've had to turn people away because, who are they? And we have turned them away. And that's the only way we've attempted to do it on large events, or even decent on our large clubs and bits and pieces. When people rock up with a WhatsApp message from someone we don't know, they will not be employed that night. They'll be turned away. And one of the things we've always done, we've always oversubscribed, because when you've got a large event, you need to oversubscribe because people don't turn up, and it does avoid things like this. So you put the whole thing out, and we tell people we do oversubscribe, so your staff need to be on point. The only downside on that, there is a downside on that. If everyone turns up at the times you've set, you're now employing everybody, which we can lose out. But if you're making the right money and you're charging the right, you can cover those extra costs.
That's an interesting point there. So the things that, and I'm gonna, because as you know, we're transparent. We believe transparency. We know, ACS status. Not every company, has ACS status. Not everybody wants to be ACS status. I don't understand. Well, I do understand why, but I still think, as you know, it's a good route for companies to go down. But what other steps can you say? So they're not ACS status. Is there anything else that you could ask for, or or you get your clients to ask for?
Can you expand on that a little bit, Ian? How do you mean?
Well, you mentioned the things that you do. If you're not looking for ACS status, which you would have to do if you were an ACS company, but you're not an ACS company. So, what other steps can you then take to make sure that whoever's subbing into you is following the right rules?
Well, again, what we used to do, we used to send out that questionnaire, and that asked dozens of questions. It wasn't a couple of questions. Are you insured? Yes or no. It was something like 5 or 6 pages we used to ask, and everything was down from health and safety, how they got their staff. Where do you advertise? Facebook? Do you advertise on WhatsApp? Do you advertise in the local labour exchange? Is it labour exchange? Can we still say that?
Who are saying, or DWP centre?
Or DWP. At my age, I don't know, labour exchange. It's DWP centre. So they're the questions we ask. Another question is, which we've introduced recently on lots of stuff we're doing now, is where did your staff be? Where were they trained? Who trained them? Have they got their training certificates? And again, these are all questions which we ask now, and we're bringing this in even into when when I'm consulting for other companies now. I send them through. We're asking for training certificates. We're asking for their DBS. We're asking where they trained, who their trainer was. You know, again, and all the basics, etc. I.e., right for work permit, driving license, proof of ID, etc.
Yeah, I know we can't go into. I know we could go on forever on this, and like you said earlier, I know you said you pay 6 pages long, but it was but I'm just trying to sort of make sure we have a flavour. So where we're at, because the people who are, when I look at it, there isn't a good company, or let's put it this way, there is not a smart company. Yeah, because I am not going to turn around and say that there won't be companies out there, some big, some small, whatever, who aren't taking risks, because they may well find themselves in a position where they think that that is their only choice. It's either that or lose a night. You lose the contract for a venue, for a stadium, for a festival, etc. And hundreds of people are going to be out of work. And that's a lot of pressure, isn't it, Gary?
There is a lot of pressure. Now, but this brings us down to one thing. If they've got an SIA license and their number matches on the register, they've complied.
And that comes down to compliance and overcompetence, doesn't it?
They've complied. They've complied to it. So when you're bringing that person in, if that person gets brought in, whatever company may do it, they have complied. They have got that person there. They've checked the name against the register. That license has been granted by the regulation authority. So they've seen them as competent or compliant, or they've been compliant in getting that license. So they are a legal operative at that point. There's not a lot you can say or do. Now they can open. Whether that person's any good or not is a different thing. Whether that person, whatever rate of pay they're getting, they can now open. No, but it all falls back down to that compliancy, isn't it?
And would that also apply as well to things like spectator safety?
Spectator, if we're talking about stewards.
Yeah.
See, the thing about stewards is who licenses them? They don't wear licenses. They may have to go off and do their level 3 in spectator safety.
Level 2. Yeah.
Level 2, sorry. Level 2 is spectator safety. They don't wear a badge. Who says they're compliant? Who says they're competent? The only people who know that is when they've rocked up, and they might have done it at Wembley. They might have done it at, whatever stadium may be. I'm not saying Wembley's doing anything wrong at that point. I'm just using that as an example for Wembley. But who says those spectator safety officers are, who they are? Because they don't wear badges. Whereas, we're regulated, SIA regulates us, and we're required by law to have a badges displayed at all times during the licensing activity.
Well, what I will say about the spectator safety is they do have to pass, go through the spectator safety certificate. The old fans in jackets days have gone, and that most of the stewards that you will see, in fact, I pretty much guarantee all of them will have undergone their spectator safety course. The quality of that course is probably less than that of the SIA course. One of the things that I always find interesting is that everybody thinks that the SIA license, the SIA are also responsible for event stewards, which they're not. Nothing to do with the SIA, but believe it or not, solicitors told me. I've sat and talked to them. And they said, oh yeah, those, you know, them SIA, these are licensing solicitors who should know the difference, but they don't. So, you know, that comes down to, you know, an image, doesn't it? You know,
It's an image, but I think, you know, I think to talk about stadiums, we need to have a proper chat about that, because it is an anomaly. I can't say the word. They're completely separate. They can do bits and pieces which, for some reason, are different for natural licensed venues. So I think we should leave that for another day. To be honest,
yeah, no, I'm well aware that there's some slight, but there are some slight differences in what you can do. Most of that goes around searching and things like that, and that's fine and whatever. I disagree with it personally, you know. Yeah, but that is how it is. So, and that is interestingly the difficulty, isn't it? It is how it is. We can all only operate within the laws that exist currently. And I think that's the issue, the nub of the issue, because I know there is no smart company that will employ anyone without putting in fairly stringent contractual requirements. I've had to sign them, I've set them for other people, etc., etc. They're a nightmare. Yeah, and at all times, you as the provider, you're at risk, aren't you? One person does something wrong, it's you.
That's right.
That pays the price. It's the contract that could, and it's the price, and the price could also then further impact on other contracts. The difficulty is then, guy, every single time one of these scutters, and believe you me, I will call them scutters, anybody employing people off WhatsApp messages, I want to make that crystal clear. If you've got a different point of view, Gary, please express it. But the point of view that I have is they are utter scutters, because the people that they are recruiting off the street, each one of them has the potential to be a terrorist.
I agree with fully on that. I've got nothing further to say.
So that's well, I was pretty sure you didn't, but I just wanted to make sure, you know, that people understand that you and I know you've spoken to the SIA and put things forward. I know I have. I've been doing it. I think I put my first one in about 2008 or 9. That was the first complaint I launched. Yeah. And about, or where I, you know, highlighted an issue to the SIA, and I've been doing it ever since. What about you?
Well, Ian, I've been doing it for a long time, and I think I've even proved it on certain things where people rocked up and the wrong licenses and bits and pieces, and I still hold people's licenses, which ones I've found and bits and pieces. So, yeah, we've been doing it for a very long time, and even to the point where, going back a few years ago, good few years ago, that we had one of these for a WhatsApp group, and he did turn out to be on the terrorist list.
What?
So, yeah, he actually turned out to be on the terrorist list, and counterterrorism came down and took him away. So yes, it does happen. It does happen, and you know, I can't say the venue where it was, but it was a large event in London, and yeah, that year we caught them, and not only that, we had friends in the out there. Let's use that loosely. I won't say his friends, people he knew were out there videoing at the time as well, which was the live content was being sent over to a foreign country. And so the fact is that we put it all together, that they all got rounded up that day.
So a close call.
It was a close call.
And so that's that you know, therein I think is where exactly why you should never ever be applying or employing people off WhatsApp groups. But it is very, very difficult, and I think, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not in any way excusing anybody, but I think we've got to bear in mind the consequences.
We do.
And it's all about proportionality. The chances of being killed in a terrorist attack in this country, you know, saying, well, in 2016, according to some mathematics guru, were 11 million to 1. That was then. And there'd been when you look at the whole thing, generally there are billions, and I mean billions, of interactions that take part between door supervisors, your guest safety officers, event stewards, whatever you want to call them, every single week. And it's, and yet how much happens?
As you say, I mean, at that point, was it 11 million to 1?
That's
11 million to 1. So the chances are not a lot does happen. And this is where the issues are. This is where everyone knows it may never happen, but it only takes that one thing to happen to be that 1 in 11 million. And, Manchester Arena was that one. Brixton Academy, I know it's slightly different, but there's another one.
But we've had Crocus Hall, haven't we? We've had,
these are all, and they are, it might be minor, but it only takes that one. And if you haven't got the people who are switched on from the moment they've been spoken to on either WhatsApp or the people on the ground, if they're not putting their work in, they're not doing their due diligence. I mean, that's the most important word here, due diligence. If they're not doing the due diligence, this is where things start falling apart. And this is where, we go back to the beginning. Do you open or don't you open? If you do open, are you insured? If you haven't got enough staff, who's got the insurance there? And these are all the things that link together. And then the whole thing falls down on that whole thing. Are they compliant? And if they're compliant, you're doing your job. Is your insurance valid now? Because you've got that person on, you're compliant. But is things going to happen?
It comes down to are you competent? I mean, and as you know, I have a completely different view. I think that my personal view is that the Manchester Arena inquiry was flawed in so many respects. The only thing that I thought that came out of that, that was valid and has been good, was the work that Fegan Murray OBE has put in, because she's spot on. Because it isn't the work that you do after, it isn't the work that you do after. Everybody can do stuff right of bang, although the authorities failed badly in that particular instance. But it's about getting your staff aware and giving them the sense and belief and the confidence that they can say something, that they've got the power of hello.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
On that note, do you want to wind us up, Ian?
Yeah, I think we should. But to everybody out there, Gary, and I just want to say, think on. It's your wife, mother, child, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, may be going to a club, and we want them to go out and enjoy themselves. We want them to enjoy civilized space, but then it's on us, isn't it?
That's right.
As leaders in security, or as providers of it and safety, to create those civilized spaces. Have you got anything other than the socials to do?
Only the socials, which I will
No,
say.
you're social boy.
I'm about to throw that in here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
If you like our content, which me and Ian provide, and you want to know more, please feel free to DM us on the links below. And please like and subscribe. Press the button down there, and help this make this channel go a lot further than what it does, because we are there for you, and we do a lot of stuff for free. So if you want to get on board, you want to help us out, please like and subscribe.
Do a lot for free. We do it all for free. That's what winds me up. We do it all for free. Anyway, yeah. Don't forget, you can also get us on https://guestsafetyofficer.co.uk. Yes, indeedy. The website is up. We're still working on it. So it will get better. But yeah, thanks very much. It just remains for me and Gary to say, peace out.
Take care.